I love to learn from the worst and the best parts of anything, because the way you are talking, everybody may just assume that everything, the way we've been talking, somebody may just assume that it's all rosy in the media world, that 10G came into the world and now all of a sudden it's a superstar talking to US presidents, 6 of them. When I'm here to talk to one, I'm envious about that, by the way. I do my best. I can't even get to talk to a presidential contender. See my problem. the best I've come.
Yeah, you just don't know. You can. You just don't know how.
That's yes, I don't. Yeah, I'm gonna do it.
You see, yeah, you can. You just
the
don't
only
know.
one I'm going to speak to is Peter Obi, a presidential candidate somewhere in California. I had to chase him to California.
Let's just say, for instance, here's a prime example. Let's just say, for instance, you think Ron DeSantis is going to be, he's going to be running, he's going to be up there against Trump at some point, right?
Yeah.
Here's what I would do. I wouldn't go and try to send out stuff to Ron DeSantis. I would send stuff to his wife. His wife is the big person now. She's getting ready to take it. You build that relationship with her. She's going to get you inside the events. She's going to get you the invitations to stuff. So you work backwards till you get to the right person.
Awesome. But what I want us to talk about now is there's nothing that is sweet now that didn't have some what I'll call some hiccups along the way. So without dwelling so much into all of it, what I wanted to do is to think about what to consider your worst moment in journalism or as a social media practitioner, and more importantly, what are the lessons or insights that you learn from it that can benefit those of us. In my language, they said, when to translate it into English, that when a horse that is ahead falls into a ditch, it teaches the ones coming behind how to avoid that same ditch. So many of us who are going to social media, and there are people listening to you, more will be listening to the recording later as we begin to promote it. They probably want to be like you, or they are already starting out around you. What is your worst moment in your career, if you want to pick one, just one, and then what are the lessons you learned that could be of use to those of us who are aspiring to be social media practitioners? Go.
The one thing I always remember, and this is something, and this is why engagement really counts. It was when I was working in journalism and being outside in the cold and working on a certain individual or an event, or it would be like, so you're out there with other photographers and other videographers and news people, and they had the relationship among them. And I was like all by myself and a standout, and I didn't, talk to a lot of them in the beginning stages. And what would happen is I would see them leave off on a project, and I would still be there hours later, hours and hours. And what I learned, they already knew it was over, but they talked among each other. And by me not, having a relationship with any of them, I stood up there hours and hours and hours when all I had to do was have good conversation, and just try to, sometimes you break the ice and you introduce yourself, or you just be in a way where you're collaborating with them, and it would have paid off. And, this is something I learned years later. And as far as getting information, people will give you information, but if you're always having a closed mind as looking at them as competition, it caused me, hours and years of not just like.
I want one story. 10G. A story.
A story.
That exemplifies of what happened, of your worst moment. Something happened.
I did.
And what you learn from it that we can all learn from. You got to give it to me.
I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give it to you. One story is working on Jennifer Aniston. She was the biggest at the time. It was when she was going with the divorce with her and Brad Pitt. So the photos of her was like, money was like, but it was in the freezing cold. It was like probably in New York in Central Park, and waters over.
No way.
People, yes. And not having the relationship with the doorman to know she was not even at the hotel anymore. She was in California. We were out there for 2 days. 2 days in the cold, and you couldn't leave. And it was because of me and the doorman had an argument way before, and I never understood. He told me this years later. He said, I would have told you, but you weren't nice at the beginning. And always be nice to people, the smallest people under you.
I love that.
Can help you later on.
Wow.
So It's
Okay,
just,
what are the lessons from that? So
yeah.
you booked this appointment because you cut out a little bit, maybe from my end. So I didn't hear about like 10, 15 seconds. But what I think I heard is that you booked an appointment with this superstar to go interview the person, and then you got in there.
No. This is when I was a photographer, when I was doing paparazzi work. And
Okay.
it was the biggest story at the time. It was when Jennifer Aniston and Brad had just divorced. So
Okay.
nobody had gotten photos of her yet. So any photos of her was a large amount of money. And it was tons of us photographers. We waited out there outside of the Ritz Hotel in Central Park. And I had an argument with that same doorman, probably a month before. And and he would have told me she wasn't even there. She had left and she was in California for 2 days. So we waited out there for 2 days and she was there. So the reason why I say is the people, smaller people, sometimes you have to, that's under you, not under you, but you don't look at them at their level. They have information. So you treat each people kindly and, it's a lot better later on.
Wow, I think that is massive, guys. 100%, because especially many of these big celebrities, the ones that can give you genuine information are the drivers, the gatesman, and all that. I remember that it happened to me in Nigeria once. I wanted to see. I was just up and coming, hustling then. I didn't have any money yet, but I was a big man I really wanted to see because I was sure if I can have FaceTime with that person, I can get what I needed. I needed them to come to an event. It's like trying to get you to come to this event. I know how to chase you to different rooms, right? Even though you didn't make me chase you too hard, and I appreciate that. But if you had not agreed, I would have been chasing you until you said yes. So I went to that guy's house, and then I was friendly with the security guard. He has a big security and all of that stuff. And he told me he was not home and that I can't even see him anyway. They don't know when he's going to come back. But I was gisting with the guy, and when I was leaving, I even gave him a little money. Okay, just say, okay, thank you so much for at least entertaining me and all that. Guess what? 3 days later, this man called me, the gate man. He said, "Oh, guy is here now, and madam is there, and they're having some friendly whatever that if you come now, you won't be able to get in the house. And what you do inside, don't mention my name, I can get you in." And that's what I did. So I got in there, and the guy got me in there, and I was able to, as I was entering, the man himself was trying to get out of the room to go to another, and we stood looking at each other. And I was like, "Who are you?" And then I introduced myself, and I got my time. He's like, "How did you get here?" I said, "Well, I was just lucky. I saw the gate open." He said, "I'm going to fire that guy." I said, "No, sir." He asked me if I had an IV, and I told him I did. So the man said, "Whatever." So he took me to his other living room. "Okay, what do you want?" And then I ended up doing a big business with the man. Not that time, like 12 years later. Wow. He was looking for somebody, and he called me. He remembered that conversation of 12 years. I wasn't even in Nigeria anymore. Then he brought me to Nigeria to come and consult for him 12 years after we had a meeting. Wow. And I was able to have that meeting because the security man called me. So very, very important lesson, because we forget that. Sometimes because we are privileged to get an appointment or to be friends with somebody, we look down on those who support them. Their drivers, their cooks, their drivers. And those are the ones.
Those are the main ones. Oh, yeah. The assistants, because like even that's the same way I built my profile on Capitol Hill. All of the lower interns and those people, those are the ones that's going to be, the managers. These are the ones that's going to be the directors and, exactly. Build those relationships.